The Great Hall of Atlantis Prime was built to make visitors feel small. Its walls rose so high that clouds formed near the ceiling. Strange lights floated in the air like captured stars. 12 massive thrones circled the room, each one holding a creature that had ruled the galaxy before humans. Learn to make fire. Kong Do-yan stood in the center of this hall. He was not a tall man. His hair was gray at the sides, and his face carried the lines of someone who had seen too many wars. But he stood straight, hands clasped behind his back, eyes moving slowly from one alien judge to the next. Beside him stood Lieutenant Park Yuna. She was younger, barely 30, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her job was to assist the ambassador, but right now she was trying very hard not to show fear. The creatures around them were nightmares given flesh. Some had too many eyes. Others had no eyes at all. One of them seemed to be made entirely of black smoke. You are the representatives of the species called human. The voice came from the largest throne. The creature sitting there was called High Arbiter Corvith. He belonged to the Neolith, a race that had conquered 1,000 worlds. His body was covered in silver scales, and his eyes glowed like hot metal. "Now we are," Do-yan said. His voice was calm. "I am Ambassador Kong Do-yan of the United Terran Government. This is my aide, Lieutenant Park Yuna." Corveth made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Ambassador. Such a grand title for such a small species. Tell me, human, do you know why you have been brought here?" "I have some ideas. Then let me make it clear." Corveth leaned forward. "Your kind has been spreading through the Orion sector like a disease. You build colonies without permission. You mine asteroids that belong to no one. You act as if the stars are yours to take." Another creature spoke. This one looked like a giant insect, its voice clicking and buzzing. "The Galaxy Council has watched your expansion with growing concern. You are young. You are aggressive. You do not understand your place. And what is our place?" Do-yan asked. Silence fell over the hall. The alien judges looked at each other. Some seemed amused. Others looked annoyed that a human would dare ask such a question. Corveth answered. "Your place is beneath us. All young species must learn this lesson. The strong rule. The weak serve. This is the law of the galaxy. This is how it has always been." Yuna felt her hands tighten into fists. She wanted to speak, to argue, to tell these creatures that humanity had never bowed to anyone. But she stayed silent. This was Do-yan's moment. The ambassador nodded slowly, as if considering the words. "I see. And what exactly does the council want from us?" "3 things. Corveth held up a clawed hand. "First, you will stop all expansion immediately. No new colonies. No new ships. Second, you will surrender your fleet to the Council for inspection and reduction. Third, you will accept protectorate status under Council supervision." "Protectorate status," Do-yan repeated. "That is a nice word for slavery. It is a nice word for survival," Corveth snapped. "Other species have refused our terms. They no longer exist. The choice is yours. Human. Kneel or be destroyed." The hall fell silent again. Every eye, every sensor, every strange alien sense was focused on the small human standing in the center of the room. Yuna could feel her heart pounding. This was it. This was the moment that would decide humanity's future. Do-yan was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft. "How long do we have to consider your offer?" Corveth smiled. At least Yuna thought it was a smile. It was hard to tell with a face made of scales. "You want time to run? Time to hide? Time to beg other species for help?" He laughed. "You have 12 hours. Not a moment more. When the time is up, we expect your complete surrender. If we do not receive it, the combined fleet will be dispatched to teach your species a lesson it will never forget." 12 hours, Do-yan said. "I understand. Then go. Return to your little ship. Contact your little planet. Tell them what we have said. And pray to whatever gods you worship that your leaders are wiser than you." "No." Do-yan bowed his head slightly. It was not a bow of submission. It was the kind of bow a man gives before a duel. Then he turned and walked toward the exit. Yuna followed, her legs shaking but her face showing nothing. They walked through endless corridors of crystal and light. Council guards watched them pass. Some sneered. Others simply stared with cold curiosity, as if watching insects crawl across a floor. When they finally reached their shuttle, Yuna could hold back no longer. "Ambassador, what are we going to do? We cannot fight them. Their fleet is 1,000 times larger than ours. If we refuse, they will destroy Earth. They will kill everyone." Doyon did not answer immediately. He stood at the shuttle window, looking out at the massive station. Ships of every shape and size moved through the darkness around it. The power of the Council was visible everywhere. "Do you know what the Council fears most?" he asked quietly. "Nothing," Yuna said. "They fear nothing. They are too powerful." "Wrong." "Oh." Doyon turned to face her. There was something in his eyes now. Something hard and bright. "They fear what they do not understand. They have ruled this galaxy for 100,000 years. Every species they have encountered has either submitted or been crushed. They have never met a species that would choose death over slavery. They have never met a species that would fight knowing they cannot win, and we are that species. We are human." Doyon smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had made a terrible decision. "Contact Earth. Tell them everything. Tell them the Council has given us 12 hours to surrender." "And what will our answer be?" Doyon looked back out the window. Somewhere out there, beyond the lights of Volantis Prime, beyond the Council's great fleets and conquered worlds, was a small blue planet. A planet of farmers and soldiers. A planet of dreamers and fighters. A planet that had never learned how to kneel. "Our answer will be heard across the galaxy," he said, "and the Council will learn why they should have feared us from the beginning." The shuttle's engines roared to life. As they lifted off from Volantis Prime, Yuna watched the great station grow smaller and smaller. In 12 hours, everything would change. In 12 hours, humanity would give its answer. She did not know exactly what that answer would be. But looking at the ambassador's face, she knew one thing for certain. It would not be surrender. The stars waited in silence. The galaxy held its breath. And somewhere in the darkness, humanity prepared to speak. The message from Volantis Prime reached Earth in 3 hours. It traveled through relay stations and quantum links, crossing distances that would take a ship years to travel. By the time the sun rose over the capital city of the United Terran government, every leader on the planet had read the Council's demands. The emergency session began at dawn. The great chamber was full of generals, admirals, scientists, and politicians. Screens covered every wall, showing faces from across the globe. The mood was dark. Fear hung in the air like smoke. President Beek Sun-woo sat at the head of the table. He was a quiet man, known for thinking before speaking. His face showed nothing as he listened to the reports, but those who knew him well could see the tension in his shoulders, the tightness around his eyes. Fleet Admiral Lee Taiho was the first to speak. He was a large man with a voice like thunder. He had commanded ships for 30 years, and he had never lost a battle. But today, his voice was heavy. "The situation is simple," he said. "The Council's combined fleet has approximately 3,000 capital ships. We have 47. Their smallest cruiser is larger than our biggest carrier. In a direct battle, we would last approximately 6 hours before total destruction." Silence followed his words. Someone in the back of the room coughed. A woman near the window wiped tears from her eyes. "What about allies?" asked a voice from one of the screens. "Other species who might help us?" "There are no allies," Taiho replied. "Every species in the galaxy either serves the Council or fears it. Some have shown sympathy in private channels, but none will risk their own destruction by helping us openly. Then we must surrender." The speaker was an older man, a senator from one of the eastern nations. His voice shook. "We cannot win this fight. If we resist, they will kill us all. Our children, our grandchildren, everyone. Surely survival as servants is better than extinction as fools." Several voices rose in agreement. The chamber erupted into argument. Some demanded resistance. Others begged for peace. The noise grew louder and louder until President Sunwoo raised his hand. The room fell silent. "General Cho," Sunwoo said, "you have been quiet. What do you think?" General Cho Mingi stood near the back of the room. She was not tall, but something about her made people step back when she walked by. She had grown up poor, joined the army at 17, and fought her way to the top through skill and will alone. Her face was calm as she stepped forward. "Numbers mean nothing if you lack the will to use them," she said. "I have studied the Council's history. They win through fear, not through strength. They show overwhelming force, and their enemies surrender before a single shot is fired. They have not fought a real war in 10,000 years. And you think we can teach them what real war looks like?" Someone asked. "I think we have no other choice." Minji looked around the room. "If we surrender, we become slaves. Our technology will be taken. Our culture will be erased. Our children will serve alien masters until they forget they were ever human. Is that the future you want?" "At least it is a future," the senator argued. "Dead men have no future at all." "Then you do not understand what it means to be human." Minji's voice was hard. "Our ancestors crawled out of caves and conquered a world. They crossed oceans in wooden ships. They flew to the moon with computers weaker than a child's toy. They did these things not because they were safe, but because they refused to accept limits. If we surrender now, we spit on everything they built." President Sunwoo nodded slowly. He turned to Admiral Taiho. "Admiral, if we fight, can we win?" Taiho was quiet for a moment. "No," he said finally. "Not in any traditional sense. We cannot destroy their fleet. We cannot conquer their territory. We cannot force them to surrender. Then what can we do? We can make them bleed." Taiho's eyes were bright now. "We can show them that victory against humanity will cost more than they are willing to pay. We can prove that we will fight to the last ship, the last soldier, the last human being. And we can make sure that every species in the galaxy sees it." Sunwoo leaned back in his chair. The weight of the decision pressed down on him. Millions of lives hung on his next words. The future of humanity balanced on a knife's edge. "How do we make them see?" he asked. "We broadcast everything," Taiho said. "Not a private diplomatic response. Not a secret message. We answer the Council on every channel, every frequency, every corner of the galaxy. We show them who we are. We show them that we are not afraid, and the other species. The ones living under Council rule," Minji answered. "They will see that resistance is possible. For the first time in 100,000 years, someone will stand up to the Council. Even if we lose, we will light a fire that they cannot put out." President Sunwoo closed his eyes. He thought about his daughter, only 8 years old, sleeping peacefully in a room decorated with stars. He thought about the world he would leave her, a world of slavery and shame, or a world of fire and hope. When he opened his eyes, his decision was made. "Prepare the broadcast," he said. "Admiral Taiho, you will deliver our response. General Cho, begin mobilizing our forces. We have less than 9 hours remaining." "What will the message say?" Taiho asked. Sunwoo stood. For the first time that morning, he smiled. "It will say what humanity has always said to those who threaten us. It will say, 'Come and take them.'" 3 hours later, the broadcast was ready. Admiral Taiho stood on the bridge of the UTS Defiance, the flagship of the human fleet. Behind him stood soldiers, pilots, engineers, and doctors. Men and women from every nation on Earth. Young faces and old faces. Scared faces and brave faces. The camera light turned on. Across the galaxy, screens flickered to life. In council space and beyond, in slave quarters and hidden rebel bases. Billions of beings stopped what they were doing and watched Taiho spoke. His voice was calm, steady, like a mountain that would not move. "We are humanity. You have demanded our surrender. You have threatened our destruction. You have told us to kneel or die." He paused. "We choose neither. We are not your subjects. We are not your slaves. We are human. And if you want our stars, come and take them. He gave coordinates, not to Earth, not to any human colony, but to a point at the edge of Council space. An empty region of asteroids and dust. A place called Threshold Gate. We will be waiting, Taiho said. Bring your fleet. Bring your armies. Bring everything you have. And we will show you why the galaxy should have feared us from the beginning. The transmission ended. The galaxy erupted. On 1,000 worlds, enslaved species whispered the words to each other like a prayer. On Volantis Prime, High Arbiter Corveth watched the recording with fury burning in his eyes. Humanity had given its answer. Now the Council would give theirs. High Arbiter Corveth stood before the Council chamber and screamed. It was not a human scream. It was worse. It was the sound of an ancient predator discovering that its prey had grown teeth. The walls of the chamber shook. Lesser beings covered their ears and fell to the ground. Even the other council members leaned back in their thrones. They dare. Corveth roared. These insects dare to threaten us. They dare to challenge the combined fleet. They dare to speak to us as if they were our equals. The recording of Admiral Taiho played again on the massive screen behind him. The human's calm face seemed to mock them all. His words echoed through the hall like a curse. I silenced that thing. Corveth waved a clawed hand. The screen went dark. I want their planet burned to ash. I want their colonies scattered across the void. I want every human in the galaxy to watch their species die. Control yourself, Corveth. Speaker was Lord Van Tries of the Nethon Collective. His body was thin and pale, almost transparent. His species had ruled their corner of the galaxy through intelligence rather than force. Rage is not strategy. Then what would you have me do? Negotiate with these animals? I would have you think. Von Trays moved forward, his form flowing like water. The humans have done something clever. They have made this a public matter. Every species in the galaxy saw that broadcast. If we simply destroy them now, we prove nothing, except that we fear what they might become. I fear nothing. Then act like it. Van Tries turned to face the other council members. We must answer their challenge publicly. We must meet them at this threshold gate and crush them so completely that no species ever dares to defy us again. Not a quiet execution, but a demonstration. A lesson written in fire that will last 1,000 generations. Corvath's rage cooled slightly. He saw the wisdom in these words, even if he hated the one speaking them. Very well. How many ships? All of them. Smiled. It was not a pleasant sight. 3,000 warships of the combined fleet. Every cannon, every fighter, every soldier we can spare. The humans have 47 vessels. When we are done, there will be nothing left but dust and memory, the council voted. The decision was unanimous. Within hours, the combined fleet began to mobilize. Ships that had not flown in centuries came to life. Weapons that had not fired in millennia were charged and ready. The greatest military force the galaxy had ever known, prepared to crush a species that had barely learned to walk among the stars. Far away. On the human carrier Soul's Light, Captain Imhaniel called her crew to the main deck. She was a small woman with short black hair and tired eyes. She had served in the fleet for 15 years, working her way up from a simple pilot to the command of one of humanity's most advanced warships. She had never expected to lead her people into a battle they could not win. You've all seen the numbers, she said. Her voice was quiet, but it carried to every corner of the deck. 3,000 ships against 47. The odds are not in our favor. Someone laughed nervously. Haniel let the tension hang for a moment before continuing. But I want to tell you something that the numbers do not show. I want to tell you why we are going to fight anyway. She walked slowly across the deck, looking at the faces of her crew. Young faces, most of them. Boys and girls who should have been in school, falling in love, making plans for the future. Instead, they were here, preparing to die. Our ancestors fought empires with sticks and stones, she said. They faced enemies that outnumbered them 100 to 1 and won. They crossed mountains and deserts and oceans. They survived plagues and famines and wars that should have destroyed them. They did this not because they were stronger than their enemies, but because they refused to give up. She stopped in front of a young pilot, Lieutenant Yoon Jie. The girl was barely 22, but she had the best combat scores in the fleet. Her hands were shaking slightly. "Are you afraid?" Hanyul asked. "Yes, Captain." "Good." Hanyul put a hand on her shoulder. "Fear means you understand what we are facing. But you are here anyway. That is what makes you human." She turned back to face the entire crew. "The Council expects us to surrender. They expect us to run. They expect us to beg for mercy like every other species they have conquered. But we are not going to do any of those things. We are going to meet them at Threshold Gate. We are going to fight. And we are going to show the entire galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity." A voice called out from the crowd, "But how can we win?" Hanyul smiled. "Who said anything about winning? Our job is not to win. Our job is to survive long enough to show the galaxy that we fight. We are going to make the Council bleed. We are going to cost them ships and soldiers and pride. And we are going to make sure that every enslaved species in the galaxy sees it. That is our victory. Not destroying the enemy, but proving that the enemy can be hurt." Chief Engineer Han Wuzhen stepped forward. He was an older man, gray-haired and thick-bodied, with hands that had built and repaired 100 ships. "The engines are ready, Captain. Whatever you need, we will keep this ship flying." "I know you will, Chief." Hanyul looked at him with gratitude. "And the weapons?" "Charged and ready. We may not have many, but every shot will count." Hanyul nodded. She turned back to her crew one final time. "In a few hours, we will jump to Threshold Gate. The combined fleet will be waiting for us. Many of us will not survive. I cannot meets you victory. I cannot promise you safety. But I can promise you this. When the history of our species is written, they will remember this day. They will remember that when the galaxy demanded our surrender, we answered with fire. They will remember that humanity does not kneel." The crew was silent. Then, slowly, someone began to clap. Others joined. Soon, the entire deck was filled with applause and cheers and the sound of fists beating against chests. It was not the sound of soldiers preparing for victory. It was the sound of humans preparing to make history. On Volantis Prime, Ambassador Kang Do-yan watched the Council's preparations through a small window. Ships moved across the sky like angry insects, thousands of them, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a city. A guard entered his quarters. "You have been ordered to evacuate. A shuttle will take you to a safe location until the battle is complete." "I am not leaving. You do not have a choice. The High Arbiter commands it. The High Arbiter can command the stars to stop shining. It does not mean they will obey." Do-yan turned to face the guard. "I am the ambassador of the United Terran government. My place is here, in the heart of the Council, watching as my people answer your challenge. I will not hide. I will not run. And when this is over, I will be here to speak for humanity, whatever the outcome." The guard seemed confused. He was used to prisoners who begged and threatened and cried. This human did none of those things. He simply stood there, calm and still, as if he knew something the guard did not. "You are strange creatures," the guard said finally. "Do you not understand that you are going to lose?" Do-yan smiled. "Perhaps. But losing is not the same as being defeated. And being defeated is not the same as being destroyed. The Council may crush our fleet. They may burn our colonies. They may even kill every human being in the galaxy. But they will never make us kneel. In 1,000 years from now, when other species rise up against your masters, they will remember us. They will remember that we fought. That is our immortality." Guard left without another word. Do-yan turned back to the window and watched the ships gather. Somewhere out there, beyond the lights and the noise, his people were preparing for battle. He could not be with them, but he could watch, and he could wait. The hours ticked by. The fleets moved into position, and the galaxy held its breath, waiting for the fire to begin. Threshold Gate was a graveyard of stone and ice. Asteroids the size of mountains drifted through the darkness. Dust clouds stretched across the void like gray curtains. It was a forgotten place, far from any colony or trade route. The perfect location for a battle no one expected humanity to survive. The human fleet arrived first, 47 ships arranged in a defensive formation around the largest asteroid cluster. They were small compared to Council warships. Their hulls were scarred from years of service. Their weapons were outdated by galactic standards. But their crews were ready. Captain Imhanul stood on the bridge of Soul's Light, watching her screens fill with data. Status report. All ships in position, her first officer replied. Weapons charged. Shields at maximum. The fleet is ready, Captain, and the special package. Hidden in the asteroid field, waiting for your signal. Hanul nodded. She looked out at the darkness beyond her window. Somewhere out there, the combined fleet was coming. 3,000 ships carrying more firepower than humanity had ever faced. In a fair fight, it would be destroyed in minutes. But humanity had never believed in fair fights. The first Council ships appeared on sensors 2 hours later. They came out of hyperspace like a wave of metal and fire. Battleships the size of cities, cruisers bristling with weapons. Carriers launching swarms of fighters that blacked out the stars. The sheer scale of it was almost impossible to comprehend. High Arbiter Corvith commanded from the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. He looked at the human formation and laughed. 47 ships. They brought 47 ships to face the combined fleet. This is not a battle. This is a execution. Should we offer them one last chance to surrender? His aide asked. No, they had their chance. Now they die. Corveth waved his hand. All ships advance. Destroy everything. The Council fleet moved forward like a wall of death. Thousands of weapons charged and fired. The first volley should have ended the battle immediately. Energy beams and missiles screamed across the void toward the human ships, but the humans were not where they should have been. The formation broke apart in an instant. Ships scattered in every direction, diving into the asteroid field with impossible speed. The Council weapons struck rock and dust instead of metal. Explosions lit up the darkness, but not a single human ship was hit. What are they doing? Corvath leaned forward. They are running into the asteroid field. They are insane. Perhaps they hope to hide, his aide suggested. Then they are fools. Launch fighters. Pursue them. I want every ship destroyed within the hour. Thousands of Council fighters launched from their carriers. They were fast, deadly, designed to hunt and kill in the vacuum of space. They dove into the asteroid field after the human ships, sensors searching for targets. What they found was a nightmare. Lieutenant. Yoon Jie pulled her fighter through a gap between two spinning rocks. Behind her, 3 Council fighters tried to follow. One crashed into an asteroid and exploded. Another was caught by a sudden spray of debris. The third managed to stay on her tail for nearly a minute before she led it straight into the path of a hidden weapons platform. 3 down, she reported over the comm. Returning to hunting grounds. Good work, GA. Captain Haniel's voice crackled through the static. All pilots maintain pattern. Draw them deeper. Make them chase you. The human pilots flew like nothing the Council had ever seen. They used the asteroids as weapons, as shields, as traps. They performed maneuvers that should have killed them. They pushed their ships beyond every limit. The Council fighters, designed for open space combat, struggled to keep up. Meanwhile, the larger human ships played their own deadly game. They would appear suddenly from behind an asteroid, fire a precise volley at a Council cruiser, and vanish before the enemy could respond. They used the dust clouds to hide their heat signatures. They used the debris to confuse Council sensors. Chief Engineer Han Wujin worked miracles in the engine room of Soul's Light. Every time a system failed, he brought it back to life. Every time a weapon overheated, he found a way to cool it. He moved through the ship like a force of nature, his voice shouting orders over the sound of explosions. Reroute power from the secondary shields to the main cannons. Give me everything we have. A young engineer looked at him with fear in her eyes. If we do that, one hit to the port side will will destroy us. Then do not let them hit the port side. Wujin grabbed a welding tool and dove into an access panel. Now move. The battle continued for hours. The Council fleet pushed deeper into the asteroid field, taking losses they never expected. Ships that had conquered entire worlds were crippled by human fighters. Admirals who had never known defeat watched their forces bleed. But the humans were bleeding too. One by one, their ships fell. The carrier Incheon Pride took a direct hit to its reactor and exploded. The destroyer Busan Star was cut in half by a Council battleship. 11 human ships died in the first 8 hours of fighting, yet the remaining 36 kept fighting. On the bridge of Eternal Dominion, Corveth could not believe what he was seeing. How are they still alive? How are they doing this? They are not fighting to win, Lord Vantries said quietly. He had joined the battle to observe, and what he observed disturbed him deeply. They are fighting to survive. Every tactic, every maneuver, is designed to extend the battle as long as possible. But why? They must know they cannot win. Perhaps winning is not their goal. Before Corveth could respond, an alarm sounded. Something was happening in the asteroid field. Sensors detected power signatures appearing throughout the debris. Dozens of them. Hundreds. What is that? Corveth demanded. New ships? No. His aide's voice was filled with confusion. They appear to be transmitters, broadcasting equipment. They are sending signals across the entire galaxy. Corvath's blood turned cold. Suddenly he understood. This was never about winning the battle. This was never about defeating the Council fleet. This was about making sure everyone watched. Across the galaxy, screens flickered to life. On slave worlds and free worlds, in hidden bases and council chambers, billions of beings saw the same thing. The Battle of Threshold Gate broadcast in real time. 47 human ships standing against 3,000. Fighting not to win, to prove that fighting was possible. The footage showed human pilots diving through impossible gaps. Their faces calm, even as death surrounded them. It showed engineers working with burned hands to keep their ships alive. It showed captains refusing to surrender, even as their bridges burned around them. And it showed the Council fleet bleeding. 212 Council ships destroyed. Thousands of fighters, Ost. Admirals killed. Flagships damaged. The greatest military force in galactic history, wounded by a species that had barely discovered fire a few thousand years ago. This is what they wanted, Vantries whispered. Not victory. Witness. They wanted the galaxy to see that the Council can be hurt. Corveth screamed in rage. Destroy those transmitters. Destroy every human ship. End this now. The Council fleet surged forward with renewed fury. Ships that had been holding back joined the attack. Weapons that had been saved for emergencies were unleashed. The humans died one by one, but they did not stop fighting. Even as their ships burned, they kept firing. Even as their comrades fell, they kept flying. Lieutenant Ga shot down 17 enemy fighters before her own ship was destroyed. Chief Wujin kept souls, light running until a direct hit to the bridge finally silenced her. Captain Hanul was among the last to fall. Her ship was crippled, her crew dead or dying, her weapons exhausted. A Council battleship moved in for the killing blow. She opened a channel to the enemy. Her face appeared on Corvath's screen, bloody and burned, but still smiling. Well fought, she said. Remember this day. Remember what 47 ships did to your mighty fleet? And remember that this is only the beginning. The soul's light exploded. The battle was over, but across the galaxy, the fires of rebellion were just starting to burn. The great hall of Volantis Prime had never been so quiet. Ambassador Kong Doyan walked through the massive doors with slow, measured steps. His clothes were the same ones he had worn when he first arrived. His face was calm. His hands were steady. He looked like a man taking a morning walk. It's not a representative of a species that had just lost a battle. The Council thrones were half empty. Several representatives had fled in the night, afraid of what might come next. Others sat in their seats with expressions of shock and confusion. They had expected to celebrate a victory. Instead, they were struggling to understand what had happened. High Arbiter Corveth sat on his throne. But he looked different now. Smaller somehow. His scales had lost their shine. His eyes, once burning with arrogance, were dull and tired. The battle had lasted 16 hours. 212 council ships destroyed. 36 human ships lost. The humans had died, but they had taken a piece of the council's pride with them. Ambassador, Corveth's voice was hoarse. You come to surrender? No, Doyan stopped in the center of the hall. I come to discuss terms. Laughter echoed through the chamber. But it was weak, uncertain. The remaining council members looked at each other, not sure how to respond. Terms. Corveth stood from his throne. Your fleet is destroyed. Your ships are dust. Your best soldiers are dead. What terms can you possibly offer? Doyan smiled. It was the same smile he had worn throughout his captivity. Patient, knowing, dangerous. Terms are simple, he said. First, the Council will recognize humanity as a sovereign power with full rights to the Orion sector. Second, all species currently under protectorate status will be given the choice to remain or to seek independence. Third, the Council will publicly acknowledge that the ultimatum given to humanity was wrong. The laughter died. Silence filled the hall like cold water. You are mad, Corveth said slowly. Absolutely mad. We destroyed your fleet. We won. Did you? Doyan tilted his head. You sent 3,000 ships to destroy 47. You expected it to take an hour. It took 16. You expected no losses. You lost over 200 ships and countless fighters. You expected the galaxy to see your power. Instead, they saw your weakness. He began to walk slowly around the chamber, looking at each council member in turn. Right now, across the galaxy, species that have served you for millennia are asking questions. They are watching the recordings of the battle. They are seeing that the mighty combined fleet can bleed. They are whispering to each other, if the humans can do this, what could we do? Lord Vantrese leaned forward. His pale face showed something like respect. You planned this from the beginning. The challenge, the location, the broadcast, all of it was designed to start a fire. Fire was already waiting, Doyan replied. We simply provided the spark. And what makes you think we will not simply crush these rebellions as we crushed you? Because you cannot be everywhere at once. Doyan stopped and faced Corveth directly. Your fleet is damaged. Your reputation is wounded. If you attack Earth now, you leave your other territories exposed. If you try to suppress rebellions, humanity rebuilds. You cannot win this war through force alone anymore. The rules have changed. Corveth's claws dug into the arms of his throne. Rage and fear battled behind his eyes. He wanted to order this human killed, wanted to watch him die slowly and painfully. But somewhere deep inside, he knew that Doyan was right. The galaxy had shifted. The old order was cracking. What do you truly want? Corveth asked. His voice was quiet now, almost defeated. I want what every species wants. The right to choose our own future. The right to walk among the stars without bowing to anyone. The right to be free. Doyan paused. Accept our terms, and humanity will be a partner, not an enemy. Refuse, and we will fight you for 1,000 years. We will lose battles. We will lose ships. We will lose lives. But we will never stop. And every time we bleed, we will make sure the galaxy sees it. We will inspire rebellions on 100 worlds. We will turn your empire into a prison that you can never escape. The silence stretched on. Minutes passed. The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Finally, Corveth spoke. Leave us. We must discuss. Doyan bowed his head slightly and walked out of the chamber. The great doors closed behind him. He stood in the corridor alone, letting out a breath he had been holding for hours. His hands were shaking now. The calm mask he had worn was cracking. A guard approached. The same one who had tried to evacuate him days before. Ambassador, are you well? I am tired, Doyan admitted. But the work is not done yet. walked to a window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 36 ships floated as wreckage. Thousands of his people had died to make this moment possible. Captain Haniel, Lieutenant Ga, Chief Wujin. Names he would carry with him forever. But their sacrifice had not been wasted. The galaxy had seen humanity fight. The galaxy had seen humanity refuse to kneel. And that memory would burn brighter than any weapon. 3 hours later, the council gave its answer. Not acceptance, but negotiation. They agreed to recognize humanity as a sovereign power. They agreed to discuss the status of protectorate species. They did not apologize, but they stopped demanding surrender. It was not a complete victory, but it was a beginning. On Earth, Admiral Lee Taiho watched the news feeds in his private quarters. The battle footage played on every channel. Commentators from a dozen nations analyzed the tactics, the sacrifices, the impossible survival of the human spirit. A new phrase was spreading across the planet, repeated in 100 languages. Fight like a human. General Chomingi entered without knocking. She looked exhausted, but there was light in her eyes. The reports are coming in from across the galaxy, she said. 7 species have already announced they are seeking independence from the Council. 12 more are forming underground movements. The fire is spreading. It will take years, Taiho replied. Maybe decades. The Council will not give up easily. No, but neither will we. Minji sat down across from him. We need to rebuild the fleet, train new pilots, prepare for the next battle. There will always be a next battle. Taiho turned off the screen. But today, we showed them something they have never seen before. A species that would rather die than submit. That is worth more than 1,000 victories. Far away, on a small transport ship heading back to Earth, Lieutenant Park Yuna sat alone in her cabin. She had survived the battle only because Ambassador Do-Yan had kept her on, Atlantis' prime. She had watched from a distance as her fellow soldiers died. Part of her wished she had been with them, but another part of her understood why she was still alive. The war was not over. It was just beginning, and humanity would need people to fight, to plan. To remember, she took out a small notebook and began to write. Names, dates, stories, everything she could remember about the people who had given their lives at Threshold Gate. Someday, when the war was won, she would make sure the galaxy remembered them. The transport ship jumped to hyperspace. Stars stretched into lines of light, and Yuna kept writing, filling page after page with the history of humanity's first great stand against the darkness. In the end, that was how humanity won. Not through weapons or numbers or tactics. They won because they refused to be forgotten. They won because they told their stories to anyone who would listen. They won because they taught the galaxy that freedom was worth any price. The Council had ruled for 100,000. Years through fear, humanity showed them a different way. They showed them hope, and hope, as the humans knew better than anyone, was the most dangerous weapon of all.